He rolled off pit road, buried outside the top 30. Everyone watching thought his playoff hopes were about to take a gut punch. Instead, Shane van Gisbergen walked away from Richmond with more breathing room than he started with. How does a driver climb the standings while looking like he's about to fall out of the picture entirely? Stick around, because this Richmond result is one of the sneakiest strategic wins of the NASCAR season. Here's the situation in plain terms. Shane van Gisbergen qualified deep in the field for Saturday's Cup race at Richmond, well outside the top 30. Meanwhile, his closest rival for that final playoff transfer spot, Austin Cindric, was putting together arguably his best run of the entire season. On paper, that's a nightmare scenario for SVG, but when the checker flag dropped, the Trackhouse Racing driver crossed the line 14th, matching his finish from Richmond a year ago. More importantly, he outperformed Ryan Preece, the driver sitting directly behind him on points, who finished 17th. The result? Van Gisbergen's cushion above the cut line actually grew from 47 points to 50. To understand why this matters, you have to look at where the playoff picture stands right now. With the regular season winding down, every position swap is magnified. There's no room left for a bad week. Van Gisbergen has built his case for a playoff berth largely off explosive performances rather than pure points consistency, which is part of what makes him such a fascinating storyline this season. A three-time Supercars champion transitioning into NASCAR Cup competition and fighting his way toward the postseason is not a small footnote. It's a genuine underdog arc playing out in real time. Preece, on the other hand, needs results like this not to happen. Every point Van Gisbergen banks makes Preece's road back into contention steeper, and with only 2 regular season races remaining, that math becomes brutal fast. This is where it gets interesting, because Richmond wasn't won on raw speed. It was won on a calculated gamble from crew chief Stephen Doran. Here's the move. Instead of pitting with the field at the start of the final stage, the team kept Van Gisbergen out on aging tires and took the wave around. That single decision instantly vaulted him inside the top 15, despite having objectively worse equipment under the car than everyone around him. Now, that's a high-risk play. Track position gained through strategy instead of pace is fragile. If a caution doesn't fall the right way, older tires get exposed and a driver can lose everything he just gained in a hurry. That's exactly what almost happened here. The anticipated caution didn't come when the team wanted it. Van Gisbergen's car cycled off sequence, which typically spells disaster for a strategy call like this. But then the yellow flag finally appeared at almost the perfect moment, right as he cycled back into that top 15 window again. That's not just luck. That's a crew chief reading the race correctly enough to survive a gamble that could have blown up completely. Is this smart or is this dangerous? Honestly, it's both. This is the kind of call that either makes a crew chief look like a genius or completely tanks a driver's night. Doran rolled the dice and it landed exactly where he needed it to. That's the type of decision-making teams have to be willing to make when they're fighting for a playoff spot with limited races left on the calendar. You can expect 2 very different reactions splitting the fan base here. Supporters of Van Gisbergen are going to point to this as more proof that Trackhouse has found a formula that works when it matters most. The strategic aggression, the willingness to gamble track position instead of settling for a safe finish, all of it beats the underdog narrative fans have been building around him all season. On the flip side, Preece's camp and RFK Racing supporters are going to look at this result with real frustration. A driver who needed a big night just watched the gap grow instead of shrink, and with the regular season closing out, patience is running thin. So where does this go from here? Let's lay out 2 paths. Best case for Van Gisbergen, he carries the strategic momentum into New Hampshire and Daytona, protects or extends his cushion, and locks himself into the playoffs as one of the most talked about storylines of the year. A rookie-level newcomer to Cup racing making the postseason off-grid and smart calls is exactly the kind of story NASCAR loves to promote. Worst case, Daytona is chaos. It always is. One incident in that superspeedway pack could wipe out this entire cushion in a single lap, and suddenly this 50-point gap means nothing. Preece doesn't even need to be fast. He just needs Van Gisbergen's night to go wrong at the wrong track. And don't sleep on the drivers ahead of him either. Cindric is sitting just 7 points up, and Bubba Wallace is 20 points clear. Van Gisbergen isn't just defending from behind, he's also got work to do if he wants to climb the order before the reset. So, here's the real question. Was this Richmond result proof that Van Gisbergen and this Trackhouse team have figured out how to win playoff spots through smart risk-taking, or did they just get away with a gamble that easily could have backfired? Drop your take in the comments. Best case or worst case for the final stretch. If you want to break down the second New Hampshire and Daytona wrap up, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.